The Supreme Court weighing in on several significant cases this week. Joining us now to discuss them is Hofstra University law professor James Sample. Good morning.
Good morning, Mary.
Let's start with the biggest ruling. The Supreme Court shooting down President Trump's executive order restricting birthright citizenship. Walk us through the majority decision here.
Sure. Well, the 14th Amendment says that all individuals born on U.S. soil and subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, which basically has been historically interpreted to mean as long as you could potentially be prosecuted, for example, you're not a child of a diplomat, you don't have that kind of an immunity, then you are a U.S. citizen. Born here, a citizen here. That's been the rule. That was adopted in 1868 with the 14th Amendment. The Supreme Court considered that question in 1898, and that has been the uninterrupted precedent for all of that time. So literally the entirety of the 1900s and through to right now today. And what the Supreme Court said yesterday is that the 14th Amendment means what it says. It means what it has historically been interpreted to say. And if you are born in the United States, you are a citizen here. Now, to be clear, this has always been the case, and yet this was not a 9-0 decision. It was essentially 6-3 with a kind of 5.5, 3.5, Justice Kavanaugh sort of straddling the line, but 6-3 on the question of whether or not President Trump's executive order was constitutional and was legal. And the answer to that is no. So the status quo remains. And the idea is simply that that's what the 14th Amendment says, and you can't rewrite an amendment to the Constitution with merely an executive order, Mary.
This term, we've gotten a few decisions related to elections when ruling to do with the spending limits, the other related to mail-in ballots. What immediate impact could this have on the midterm elections?
With respect to mail-in ballots, the question was whether or not ballots that are postmarked by Election Day and arrive in the days after Election Day in states that allow these so-called after-arriving ballots would count. Now, Mississippi was one of those states. There are about 14 states that have similar policies to Mississippi and another 14 states beyond that, so roughly 28 states that have some version of this kind of grace period. The court upheld those grace periods and said that the day of election is the day on which you cast your ballot. It doesn't mean that the ballot has to be received by then. So the impact there is the status quo that has been the status quo in the past continues. With respect to campaign spending, yesterday, the Supreme Court struck down limits on coordinated spending between the parties and the candidates and contributions. I think what that will happen there is more money will flow through the political parties themselves, and this will maybe reduce the impact of super PACs, but will certainly increase the flow of money overall.
The rulings this week include both wins and defeats for President Trump. Based on these rulings, what do you make of the current dynamic between the executive and the judicial branches?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Mary. And I think that the answer is that Donald Trump had a great term at the Supreme Court. Even though he lost some cases that he wanted to win, and certainly birthright citizenship looms large there. I mean, it's an order that he signed literally on his first day in office. But he increased the power of the presidency through the rulings of the Supreme Court this year. And certainly even in the last 48 hours, the ruling that allows him to fire commissioners of independent agencies, the so-called Slaughter v. FTC case, is one that gives the executive and the presidency, not just Donald Trump, but presidents in the future, a whole lot more power over the way government is structured.
Before we let you go, can you explain why the justices release these cases in batches every winter and summer, and what big cases are likely to be argued next session?
Sure. Well, they start hearing oral arguments on the first Monday of October each year. And one reason, the sort of clear reason, is it does take some time to write these opinions, to work through the dissent, the majority, to respond to each other in writing. And obviously the care that is required to get it right. But the idea of waiting until this last week to release many of these blockbuster decisions, you get the sense that the court has a bit of a flair for the dramatic, and they almost want to escape Washington right after leaving for their summer recess after releasing some of these big ones. The biggest grant that was granted by the court for next term is a case involving AR-15s, the so-called semi-automatic rifles, a case that actually involves listeners and viewers in our area, arises out of Connecticut and Illinois, and it was passed in the aftermath of the Sandy Hook massacre. And the question in that case will be whether or not states like Connecticut are allowed to regulate and prohibit the ownership of AR-15s.
James Sample, thanks so much for joining us.